Hello and welcome everybody to a new video. So in this video I try my hand at turning a bowl for the very first time and we get this lovely result. So stay tuned to see how I did it. Hello, welcome back to the workshop. For a bit of a change, it's a balmy 16 degrees out here today and yeah, we're here, have the lathe out, have a big chunk of wood and we're going to make something. So this is a big piece of not ash, it's willow that I got from my tree that came down on my parents' farm. And we're going to try turning a bowl with it today. So I've never turned a bowl before, so it's going to be a new learning experience. I have the lathe here. I got a new 4-jaw chuck for the lathe, which is kind of the impetus why I want to do this now, because if you're doing bowl turning, you can use a faceplate, which I will do for the first part of this, and then what you want to do is you want to flip it around and be able to use your 4-jaw chuck to grab the inside of the bowl to finish the outside of it. That's at least one method for doing it anyway. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to learn, see if we can't turn a bowl. Why not? And we're going to use this piece of willow to do it. So willow apparently isn't very good for construction of anything. It's not a super strong wood. It is a hardwood, but it's not super strong. So we're going to see what we can do with it. This bowl will be purely ornamental. You know, it might not even work out very well, so we maybe won't end up with a bowl out of it. But yeah, that's what we're going to do. We're going to try and make a bowl. I have in here chucked up this tiny little piece of Christmas tree. So this is just a little scrap piece just to test out the 4-jaw. So I'm going to do a little testing with the 4-jaw before I attempt the bowl. But yeah, 4-jaw will come a little bit later in the process. First part will be using the faceplate to make the shape. This is a fairly big piece, and this lathe is not terribly big, so I'll probably have to cut it down a little bit on the bandsaw first, which means we'll lose some of the outside, but that's fine. We're going to lose anyway when we start turning it. So there's also a couple of cracks in this, so I don't know what's going to happen with those. But we'll find out. Hell, who knows? So yeah, stay tuned. That's what we're doing. Just turn a bowl. So all I'm really doing here is just getting to grips with the 4-jaw. No pun intended. Sorry, that was terrible. Anyway, yeah, just getting to grips with the 4-jaw. This is just a small piece of oak or of pine, as I said. Christmas tree? Pine? Yeah, I guess pine. And yeah, like just really getting to feel the holding power of it. I only had one little incident there where it popped out. And yeah, that's totally on me. You know, it's being aggressive with the cut, but this is exactly what I wanted to happen here. I wanted to see what that felt like, and to to test what the 4-jaw could actually do, and then also play around with being able to align something in the 4-jaw. Another thing I was very aware with the 4-jaw was where those actual jaws were, because they protrude over the work when you're gripping it on the outside. So I used a pencil to kind of scribe a line, which was with parallax roughly in line with where my tool was going to be. So I knew basically don't go past that line, or else one of the jaws is going to hit the tool. And yeah, I really don't want to think of what would happen there. So I seem to have made an egg cup, I guess. But what's more important than making this a egg cup is that I have tested out the 4-jaw, gotten to grips with, holding stuff centered in it and how you do the adjustments and an idea of what its holding power is like. Only had one little incident where it where the piece pinged out of it when it grabbed, so that's okay. And also got a little bit of experience, or just some practice with the bowl turning tool, which is something that I haven't used a ton of. Yeah, so that's nice. Little tiny mini side project in this. So I'm actually gonna part this off and maybe clean it up a little bit, because I kind of like it. It's a little cute little egg cup. But anyway, that's the first part done, just getting to grips with this guy. So now I'm actually thinking I'm going to start making the bowl. So we don't start with the 4-jaw for the bowl. We're going to start with the faceplate. So we're going to have to shave a little bit of material off my big stump for the bowl, mount it to the faceplate, make sure it's nice and balanced, and then we go from there. So that's the next thing.
And because apparently I don't learn from my mistakes, I managed to ping the part out of the forejaw again. This time was from using the bowl turning tool on the bottom of the piece, which is a very aggressive turning tool. Switching to some sandpaper is a much better option for cleaning up the base of this. Next step here is to get my stock ready for the bowl turning. So this big chunk of wood, far too big to fit in my lathe, and also just bigger in general than the sort of bowl shape I wanted to make. So what I did here was I found roughly the center of where I wanted my faceplate to be, and kind of picked a piece where it was relatively flat that I could screw it down and make a nice contact, and also where I'd be able to put an even kind of radius around it. I then sketched out some lines and some waste area that I needed to remove. I initially wanted to do this on the bandsaw. I was really hoping I could, but then I took one look at my bandsaw and realized how large this piece of wood was. It was never going to fit. So unfortunately, the only recourse I had was to take this outside and go at it with the handsaw, which, that wasn't a ton of fun.
Okay, we're making progress. Oh god, this is hard work. I'm so out of breath doing this. I think once I lop this end off, I should be able to take the corners down on the bandsaw. I didn't have enough throat to get through a lot of this, so fingers crossed I don't have to do any more hand sawing once I get this bit off. Oh god. Okay, it's done. That took such a long time. Gonna take it over to the bandsaw now and try and trim the rest of it. So we got to a point where we have a blank that we're ready to turn. So this was a bit of an effort. It was really really wobbly, so this piece was super unbalanced, and yeah, the lathe not rigid enough the way it was. I usually just clamp the lathe to the bench, and that's usually enough. I've had to use the mounting holes instead, and now actually bolt it through onto the bench. So I've done that. Also, have piled a bunch of weights on the bench here to try and give it a bit more mass, because this bench isn't actually bolted to the floor or the wall. It's just floating, so it is still a bit of vibration to it. It is nice and solid, and I think for almost 90% of what I'll ever be turning, this is going to be a perfectly rigid setup. This is still a bit wobbly, but it's okay. I had to spend a lot of time with the handsaw. It was the only way I could actually get through large chunks of this material. Towards the end, I did figure out that if I could just start the cut, if I could get an axe into it and then beat it with a hammer, I was able to just flake off a big chunk. So that's good. That was risky though, because I could have taken off way larger chunks that I wanted, or the grain could have diverged and I could have ended up ruining the piece basically. So I'm lucky for what I have. But still, even at this point, I still don't know if this is actually going to make a good bowl. There is a big angle on the face of this, so I'm going to have to cut back quite a lot. So I don't actually have a lot of material, and it's not that big. So yeah, this may end up being a very small bowl, but this is all what we're doing. We're learning. We're learning about how big of a thing I can chuck into this lathe and actually mess with. So anyway, all of that said, we're at a stage now where I can actually turn this blank. So I can turn the lathe on. It'll vibrate a bit, but you'll see it is running okay. So it is a bit vibey, but it's within the amount of tolerance that I'm comfortable standing in front of it and working at it. So as I take with the roughing gouge now, I'm going to take some pretty big cuts and try and remove a lot of the run out from this. And as I do that, it should get smoother and smoother. So yeah, that's the next part I'm going to do. Is I'm going to take some of those first initial passes to start roughing off the material, get my rough round shape in, and this should become a lot more stable to work with then. So let's get started on that. Okay, quick update. We've got something that is starting to approach round. I've got almost all of the bark and stuff off. Just this little dip here to go through, and this little piece here, and then we'll have a mostly cylindrical piece. Obviously, got to deal with the face as well. I determined the best use for the weights was to put them up high here. That actually smooths out the vibrations a ton. I think what it's doing is the weights up high there are counterbalancing the inertia of the motor spinning, which I think is what was causing the vibration at that end. The rest of it seems okay. The bench actually is holding up perfectly fine, so it's all good. But yeah, I'm not filming too much of this roughing part because it's just creating so much dust. My poor little camera is getting ruined, so I'm gonna keep going with this. I'll show you guys a little bit more of the roughing, but it just is making an ungodly amount of dust. So I'm gonna keep going. I'll film a little bit and then I'll put you guys away and I'll snap to the next big piece to show you guys. But for now, for this roughing stuff, I'm just gonna do it off camera. So we've managed to get some of this pretty nicely set up. So we've got the outside nice and cylindrical. It's all perfectly balanced now, and there's no more problems with it wobbling too much. All the vibrations are taken out, and I started the bowl here. So it's not super deep yet. It's only about maybe 3 or 4 centimeters deep. I want to go down a good bit further, so I can't. I think I need to leave about yay much space at the bottom because there are screws that are coming up through the base plate here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start to shape the outside to go in about as deep as I want to go, and then that'll leave us with a little stub, which I'm going to use as like kind of a base where there would be screw holes through it. So what I'll do is I'm going to hollow this down more like as deep as it needs to go. Probably do some of the sanding on it as well to get it nice so I don't have to flip it over again. Then I'm going to unscrew it from this, flip it around, get the forejaw on, grab it probably by the inside, and then shape the back and shape the little base on it and get that all nice and smooth. And then I should be able to basically flip it in the forejaw and take varying grits of sandpaper on it. So that was one thing previously with all of my holding methods was once I undid one, I couldn't really easily put it back on, especially not put it back on concentrically, so that I couldn't sand things incrementally. So I'd have to basically do all my finish sanding on a piece while it was chucked up and then take it off, and then I'd lose that concentricity and I wouldn't be able to re-grip it again in any way to resand it. So the forejaw is going to be better for that. So that's where we're at. I'm going to keep doing the inside of this, keep getting myself covered in ungodly amounts of dust. And yeah, you guys can watch a little bit of this. Again, I'm going to probably move the camera out of here as the dust flies, just so I don't wreck it. But I'll let you guys see a little bit of it first.
So after all of the effort that's gone in to get to this point, this is the main bit of the actual bowl turning. And to be honest, this was the easiest part of the whole project. Aside from it making tons of dust, this wood actually turned really, really nicely once it was all balanced and I had started some nice cuts. This was really nice to do. Material's quite lovely. Turned out that it was fully dry. I wasn't sure if it was actually the very center of it was going to be nice and dry, but it's really good and dry. And yeah, it turned really, really nicely. Made a lot of dust, but that is, I think an occupational hazard of this hobby. You can't really get around that. But yeah, just had it was quite soothing to do this, and yeah, it was quite fun. This is the part of turning that I really like. All of the sketchy setups and the loud noises as you're trying to bring something into round are unpleasant and a little bit disturbing to do. But yeah, this is nice. This is where it's very satisfying and yeah, just get lots of chips and lots of powder, and you can kind of go into your own zone and just shape the wood the way you like it.
Okay, so this is my bowl blank. It's looking pretty good. This hollowed out section, I have a little outside taper on it, and a little bit here that's going to be sort of its base. And not sure exactly how long it's going to be. Probably maybe make it about that long. I gave myself a lot of material here on the base to hold on to, and I'm glad I did because I got a lot of chip outs. You can see how deep the screws were going, about that deep. So what I'm going to do, I have the bandsaw put right at an angle here, so I'm going to use that to sort of shave off the outside bits here, these overhang bits. Then we're going to put the forejaw into the lathe. We're going to grab the bowl from the inside, and then we're going to set our outside point here. We're going to face that surface down, and then just going to smooth out the transition to the base, and that'll be it really. I think I did a good bit of sanding on this. It's not perfect, you can see some lines on the inside, but it's not done yet. It doesn't have any finish on it, which will hopefully help some of that. I really love these cracks. I thought the cracks, I wasn't sure where and how deep they were. I really like them. I think they add a really nice character to it, so I want to preserve those as well. I'll probably go with a very hard polyurethane finish on this, like multiple coats, make it really a rough, or make a really tough, resilient finish, and hopefully kind of fill these gaps a little bit. But I do want to preserve the cracks because I like them. This won't be for food anyways, it's just going to be an ornamental bowl, but I also absolutely love the grain patterns that we're seeing here from the Willow. It's really, really, really nice. So yeah, very, very happy with how this is turning out so far. So yeah, gonna cut this off, and then back to the lathe, try that with the forejaw. That could ruin the entire part doing that, but so far so good. Let's be optimistic and keep going and see how far we can get. Okay, I'm quite nervous about this. I have it set up in the forejaw. It's running relatively concentric. It's not too bad. Happens that the bowl was a very nice close match to one of the lines in the chuck, so it wasn't too hard to line it up. And yeah, I'm just going to send it and see how much of this I can take off with the roughing tool. So this is going to be sketchy, I think. I have no idea. I'm terrified. I don't know if as soon as I touch the tool into it, it's going to reef it off the jaws, or whether it's got a really good grab on there or not. Yeah, I have no idea. So I'm also nervous about this crack here, and if I take too much off, am I just going to split the whole bowl apart? Which might happen. So yeah, it's kind of nervous because it's the last little bit. Once I get all this rough material off, I don't have to use any more high impact tooling. So it's all sandpaper from there, so I can flip it in the jaws. I'm not going to be worried about it. It's just going to be rotating. I can sand it and just get a nice finish. Oh, it's getting to there. It's the terrifying part. So, alright, let's try this. Fingers crossed. Yeah, the bowl doesn't fly off and hit me or the camera or whatever and break. Let's try it. Well, I'm willing to call that a success. That was terrifying. God. Okay. I'm gonna just lop the rest of the end off this. Geez, it could even. Yeah. Okay. I was gonna do that. I'm gonna take the end off this, and then I'm gonna clean up the bottom face with the bowl turning tool, just to make it nice. Might even put a tiny little concave in it. See if I'm feeling fancy, and then a lot of sandpaper. Cool. All right. More turning. Success. Yes. So, unfortunately, the worst thing happened. So yeah, I've made a really nice progress on this. That this should be the final shape, basically. But yeah, got this big crack. So, what happened? It was in the jaws, and then I decided to be a little bit fancy and was going to use the bowl turning tool to dish out some of the bottom of this. But the bowl turning tool is quite an aggressive tool, and with the grip from the inside and the forejaw, just bit in, flew straight off, hit me in the head, which wasn't super pleasant,
but it also pinged out the back of the workshop door here, and managed to pick up some scrapes along the way, and this big crack in the side here. So it's not great. I think it's repairable though. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pull out some of the material that's stuck in here. I'm going to try and lay this back down and get some CA glue in, and then I'm going to clamp it in place, probably leave it overnight, and then then I'll come back to it and see what I can do. The most of the superficial stuff will come out, that'll all sand out, so it's not too bad. I got the shape though, so that's nice. I have the shape done, so I'm just going to try and repair this, get the whole thing back, solid again, and then, go back to the lathe, chuck it up on the inside, chuck it up from the tail now that I can grab onto it from there, and just do some more sanding really, and that's kind of all that's left, is just a lot of sanding. I pretty much finished the bowl now, so I think the shape is really nice. Very, very happy with the final kind of form of it. Really like the curve on the inside. I like this little base piece, and and I love the cracks, the natural cracks that were in the wood. They look so nice, and they really came out lovely. And the grain pattern really, really interesting. I remember reading that Willow, which is what this is not considered to be super strong or durable for doing anything that requires strength or durability naturally, but it does have really nice grain patterns, and you can see that in here. It's a really, really interesting grain pattern, which I think looks really nice. So I've managed to fix that crack. You can still see it here. You can still see some of the damage on the outside. The inside, the repair isn't as nice, and also on the inside there's a bit of damage here from where the jaws were gripping onto it, so not super happy with that. I think what I'm going to try and do as a little side project is I'm going to try and make a set of soft jaws for the lathe. So it's very common for metal lathes that people use, like they'll make some soft jaws out of copper or brass or something. They'll wrap their forejaw with them, and then when they grip on finished steel parts, the hardened jaws won't damage the softer steel part. Obviously, when you're dealing with wood, the metal jaws of your lathe are harder than pretty much any wood you're going to put into it. So this is always a risk, especially on a thin, inside corner like this, where it's quite hard to get in there. I don't really want to remove any more material. It's very hard to get that out. So I'm not super happy with those. But this is the first project, so wasn't going to expect miracles. I learned a good bit. Learning from my mistakes, it's the best way to learn. But I got some really nice stuff in here. So anyway, with all that said, and also sorry I didn't film all of that. I mean, the finishing work, it's mostly just sanding. It's not terribly interesting to watch. But the next part then, last stage, is just to add some finish to it, just to seal it up. I want to obviously seal up most of the cracks and stuff to make it very resilient. So I'm going to use some of my favorite, just polyurethane varnish, thin down with white spirits, and make my rub-on poly. And I'll do a load of coats of that. I'm going to do a bunch of coats to build up a really hard, tough outer shell, and hopefully fill some of these voids with it, just to preserve it a bit. And so that's what I'm going to do. Just going to add some finish, and then that's it. You guys will stay tuned to see the final piece once all the finish is cured and everything. Hopefully it turns out really nice. Time to add the finish now, using my usual go-to finish, thin down polyurethane varnish with white spirits. I make a rub-on polyurethane. This can is almost empty, so I just mixed it in the can, and just rubbing it on with a rag here. Nothing fancy. It's going to try and do a lot of coats of this to build up a nice hard resistant surface on it. And really the only thing that came out of this that was surprised me was the color change. So as I applied the finish, you can see the red underlying color of the material really, really pops, and it looks really great. So really happy with that. Wasn't expecting it, and was kind of really surprised by it when I saw it, which is this material very, very nice to work with for this kind of thing. So here we are with our final piece. It's not perfect. There's a lot of flaws in this. I I didn't get everything just right, or it didn't go all of exactly how I wanted it to. But this is the very first bowl that I've ever turned, and I'm quite proud of that fact. So I think this turned out overall nice. It's going to live in my house, so I'm going to use it. It'll probably be a key bowl or change bowl or just general empty your pockets into it when you come in the door type bowl. It'll either be in the hall or in the sitting room somewhere where it's easily accessible. And yeah, it looks pretty nice. It didn't turn out terribly, which is the main thing. I managed to recover the few errors that we had, and yeah, I'm pretty happy with the result. I might leave it a while before I turn another bowl, because this project was quite a lot of work to actually get this far. But yeah, it was fun, and I like doing it, and I learned quite a lot doing it as well, which is always important. So that's it for this video. As always, folks, thank you all for watching, and I will see you in the next one.